Oh, yes, please do.
Okay, cool. So I am Tony Hale. I'm an actor in LA. I've lived here for about 18 years. I'm from Tallahassee, Florida. I grew up in Tallahassee from 7th grade to my senior year in high school. And I am thrilled to be here.
Great, thank you. We're glad to have you here. So we'll start off. The first quick question is, what made you want to get into acting?
Well, when I moved to Tallahassee, actually in the 7th grade, I wasn't into sports. My brother was into sports. I was not, and my parents didn't really know what to do with me because, you know, sports in the South is pretty much its own religion. So my parents were kind of confused as to what to do. So there was this fantastic children's theater company called Young Actors Theater in Tallahassee, started by Tina Williams. And my parents signed me up, and it just kind of went from there. And I just loved it. I loved performing. I didn't think I could make a career out of it, so I didn't stay in college. But then after college, I kind of got the bug again and thought, well, I'll dip my toe back in the water and see what happens. And 25 years later, I'm still doing the grind, still just day to day.
So when it comes to reading, we nominated you as the literacy role model that we wanted to highlight during Children's Week.
That's nice.
Do you remember way back when, who taught you to read?
What if I was just like, I'm not a fan of reading? No. I do fall asleep a lot. I actually don't remember who taught me. Here's a fun fact. I don't really remember 6th grade down, guys. I'm just going to put that out there. I don't have the best memory. So I don't really know who taught me. I would say my parents, and I apologize if some like fantastic English teacher out there is like, wait a second, I taught you to read. So I don't really remember, but I would say my parents, Mike and Rita Hale. Thank you.
That's from 6th grade up. Who was your favorite teacher?
Thank you for that, because literally it's a blur below that. Trauma, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe that'll come out. 6th grade up. I had a, oh gosh, hold on. Jim, no. I would say most of my life was in this theater. And the teachers that I remember are my director, Tina Williams, Allison Grimes, the music director. And I enjoyed school, but it wasn't really so much of my life source. And there was, she was a humanities teacher, and I can't remember her name. Guys, I should have done my research. But I would say they were all great. I will say my friend, who you guys might know, her name is Lee Marshall. She's a drama teacher at Leon High School, and I think she is just the best. She teaches now, and I've been able to watch some of her teachings and stuff, so I'm a huge advocate for her, and she's at Leon.
Good. Well, great. Well, like you said, with the young actors, of course, I'm sure you did lots of reading and trying to memorize the scripts. So, of course, we know that importance of being able to read and knowing that it can take you in different places and different adventures. Yes. Where has some of that reading taken you over the years?
Yeah, I think, and here's the thing with reading, that, I mean, obviously it's so beautiful. And what I appreciate about reading scripts and reading stories in general, because as an actor, you are a storyteller. And I think when you're reading, it's your imagination that is creating the visuals as you read. And the thing about reading that's so much, to me, has a one-up sometimes over seeing a TV show or a film first of a story, is that you're able to create the visuals and the narrative in your head, in your imagination, before somebody else interprets them on the screen. And so there's a real freedom and a beauty to being a part of that creation of the narrative in your head, in your imagination, before, you know, so like when I'm reading a script, I can kind of visualize some fun things, or if I'm reading a book, I visualize that. But if I got a job and somebody else, it's the director's job to interpret that visual. But when you're reading, man, it's all my imagination, it's all my visuals, and there's a real freedom to that you really don't get anywhere else besides reading.
All right. So of course, as you just said, all the beauty in reading, as we know with life, there's always a downside. So what would you say could be one of those tough things someone might have with reading?
I can speak to that. I can honestly say I'm not a fast reader. I'm not that person. I have a friend, my buddy Dusty, who he reads like a book a week. He just like goes through them. That's not me. It takes me a very long time to read. Sometimes I have to read the same page twice. And I think, but with that is, I think I truly digest it, because as I'm reading it, I am visualizing it. And there's something about that visualization that helps me absorb the material. But it does take me a while. And I think I don't know if there's a lot of shame attached to it. Maybe there is. When somebody doesn't read as fast, or when somebody takes a little longer. I was that guy, and I continue to be that guy. And I have to really give myself grace and the space to take the time I need, because that's how I learn, that's how I absorb. And for me to have the full creative experience, it's not a quick experience. It does take some time for me.
Good. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, definitely. Like you said, we all have our different abilities, our different struggles, but it's nice to know that we're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
Tony, when you were younger, I know sixth grade and below are off limits. What were some books other than scripts that you can remember that you enjoyed reading when you were younger?
It's funny because I just don't have a recollection of it. I really don't. And it's sad. But when my daughter was a child, there was a book called You Are Special that I absolutely read to her all the time. And I think it was really, I read it to her so much because it was about this town. And I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but it's about this town and all these kind of dolls. And when they put stickers on each other when they see faults, or if someone's really special, they put a sticker on them. Or if somebody's got some faults, they put a different kind of sticker on them. And there was this one character that didn't have any stickers on them. And this one character, she would talk about how she didn't go by labels, and she wasn't defined by what everybody thought about her. And she was defined, and she was special because of the craftsmen that made her. And books like that, I can honestly say I wish I had when I was a kid. And it's stuff that I've read in my later years that resonate with me far more than than they did when I was a kid. And it might have been just because I was distracted. I probably wasn't very present as a kid. But later in life, stuff like the Harry Potter series, I ate that up, and I read that in my 20s. And so just that fantasy and that escape and that world, I mean, I think that kind of stuff I would have and the Lord of the Rings and all that kind of stuff, I read all that stuff later in life. And I would have loved to, those are the kind of things I think I would. I mean, the Lord of the Rings was obviously around, but for some reason as a kid, I didn't get in touch with them, but it was later that I did.
And so when you referenced your daughter, that was actually one of our questions was going to be, what was it like reading to your daughter when she was little, and what did you read? And right now I have a 6, almost 7-year-old and a 2-year-old. Mm-hmm. And so I'm in the mix of, learning how to read and exposed to literacy. And, with Children's Week, we really try and advocate for parents to engage with their little ones.
Yeah.
What would be some advice as a parent of a little one that you would give? What did you get from engaging with your little one as she grew up?
Yeah, I think maybe it was because, I don't remember much, but I don't think I was probably I picked it up the quickest reading. And because of that, I think I had a lot of grace from my daughter. There's a tremendous amount of pressure to get kids to read at a certain time, or there's whatever kind of the group think of the world that you're in about a certain age that your child should be reading. And there's a lot of pressure to make that marker happen. And the truth is, it really does unfold and happen when it does. And I really tried to remember that. And my wife and I tried to give ourselves grace, and it clicked in one day. She became a reader, and it was easy for her. But it wasn't an overnight. Other kids picked it up much quicker. But I think for parents to try not to listen to those societal pressures, and just kind of, your child is very unique and they're going to pick it up when they do, not to kind of fall into that trap. But it's tough. It's tough to not compare your kid and your style to everybody else's.
But if there's someone who was just struggling and they're ready to give up, what would you share with them?
Yeah, I love that question. I love that question because when that happens to me as a 50-year-old man, because it still does happen when I don't want to read and I don't want to do something, I will find something that I know I love. And I'll just engage in that for a little while, whether it be rereading something that I really loved, or finding a certain topic that I'm interested in, and just to kind of keep exercising that muscle. So it's not that I'm not going to go back to that stuff that I might have a little more difficult time reading, but just that I engage in something I love, just to keep that muscle alive. And then I'll go back to the other stuff when I need to. But I also have always, I think I cling to very simple truths. And many times in my adult years, I'd pick up a children's book and just read very simple words just to engage in those simple stories. This book I wrote years ago called Archibald's Next Big Thing came out of my own experience of, in this business, I was always looking at the next thing. And because of that, I was missing where I was. And this is a book that's and this little chicken is always looking to his next thing. And this bee travels around with him. And the bee's like, you gotta just be, man. You gotta just be. And then that kind of realizing about being present. And I have to do that for myself. Like, I have to sometimes pick up very simple books and truths and just read almost in kind of a meditative way. And, other people my age might be like, what? But simple truths, man. Sometimes you have to go back to that just to kind of keep that alive. And then you can go back to the more of the difficult stuff when you need to.
Well, I love that, of course, like you said, with Archibald and how that got you through. Do you see Archibald maybe having some future adventures?
Yeah, he's had a lot of adventures. The cool thing is the book, a few years back, DreamWorks made it into a cartoon that it went on Netflix. And so now the chicken, he kind of learned-ish the lesson of being present in the book. And now he sees everything as like a big thing. And he sees the best in everyone and the best in every situation. He makes a lot of mistakes, which I'm a fan of. Makes a lot of mistakes, but there's always a reason for those mistakes in the end. I think mistakes get a bad rap, and you kind of see the value in them. But it's been really life-giving. And so it's fun to see he's been on many, many different adventures now.
Yeah, we wanted to play it's a short and sweet game with you of this or that, if you're up for it.
Sure.
So this is the game of this or that, the literacy edition.
Great. Love it.
Superhero or space adventure?
Superhero. I have no desire to go to space.
Cat books or dog books?
Dog books. Terribly allergic to cats.
Ice cream or cake?
Both. Why are we separating them? What's happening?
Magazine or newspaper?
Magazine. Pictures, man. I need a couple pictures every few pages, and then I can get back to the words.
Under the rainbow or over the rainbow?
Over the rainbow.
And to read or to not read?
To read. But, give yourself grace when sometimes you don't want to read. Kind of go back and forth.
What are some pieces of advice that you would give to somebody who hasn't found their voice yet to be able to speak up and advocate?
As a writer, or as just
to speak up and be themselves, to be passionate and fearless about advocating for something.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I've never gotten that question. I like that question. I think I would say, if you could, when asked that question, kind of what are you passionate about, or you're trying to find what to speak up about or whatever, I think I would have that person take some time off of social media, off of kind of the noise that we can hear in the media, because there's a lot of shoulds and woulds and you have to and all that kind of stuff, and kind of take some time away from that and really listen to where your heart gets pressed. Because we all, if we're all honest with ourselves, there's parts in society that just really stretch our heart that maybe it doesn't stretch somebody else's heart. For me, for instance, the homeless situation in Los Angeles is really heavy on my heart. So I think about it a lot. And so I just started working with this place called the Center. And so just to try and find a solution, because the solution is so big and it feels so daunting and you don't know how you can put a dent, but you can start talking about it. You can start meeting with people who are more in the know about the situation. But not, because the thing is, I can only speak for myself. When the problem is so great, sometimes you can go into a state of paralysis and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do like this. And so then you just don't do anything, which I get. I've been there. And so I would say just kind of I'm listening to your heart, where your heart gets stretched a bit, and then take small steps. Have a meeting with somebody who is a specialty about the situation. Talk to somebody else who might volunteer in that world. But just really kind of take small steps, because I think with these big steps, you can take a big step and then you get overwhelmed and then you don't do anything, or you don't say anything, rather than just tiny, tiny steps. Because I think that's the thing, when you get stronger, your voice gets a little louder, you begin to refine where your passion is. And then with patience down the road, you're a little maybe more active too.
I love that. You answered it perfectly.
You did. I love it too. That was right on the money.
It was.
Yes.
We're voices for the voiceless that week. But
Yep.
We need the village. We need the every person, every corner,
Yes.
everywhere.
Yes.
And so, for us, a lot of the time we preach to the choir.
Sure.
So how can we demonstrate and make an easy path, or an easier path, or a visible path for those to advocate to? So.
Yeah, and I love that you said that, because I think there's a lot of attention giving to independence in our society. It's like, oh, they're very independent. They're very independent. But not a lot of attention is given to healthy dependence, where we need each other for solutions. Now there's codependency, which is obviously not healthy, but healthy dependence, where we really are supposed to work together. We're supposed to need each other to find a solution. There's nothing wrong with that. That's actually incredibly healthy and necessary. And so I think just kind of highlighting that a little bit.
Y'all have anything else?
One more quick this or that. So dessert before dinner or after dinner?
Come on now. Here's the thing. I'm sick enough to think that if I just have a taste of the sweet before the meal, then possibly I won't want it after. That never works. But I don't know. These kind of people, which I admire, they're just like, oh, I just want a little piece. No, I want the whole cruise buffet. I want the entire cake. That's where I get into my issues.
That's why I always buy the large blizzard, so I can have some the next day.
Oh, come on, turn it upside down. It's just glorious. I love it.
Yeah, before we let you go, I'm just curious. Okay, so you've raised a daughter, correct? So if you had one piece of advice to give families who are really trying to juggle, like you said, the influences from all different directions.
Yeah.
What would be your one piece of advice for families?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have a 15-year-old, so she's very embarrassed by me now. We're in that stage. And that's probably not going to stop for a while. But here's the thing. I relate it to, as an actor, when I'm working with directors, and some directors are like, you know what? Do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. And so it's like, if you show a kid an open field and say, go play. But if you show them a playground, they go crazy. And it's the same with actors. If you just tell me, do whatever you want, it gives me anxiety. It gives me anxiety because I don't know the director's vision. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what he or she is intending for the piece. I don't know. However, if he gives me, or he or she gives me parameters, they give me their vision, where I'm guided to, they give me those parameters, I feel like I can play now. I feel like I have the freedom to play because I'm not just like, I don't know where to go. And I really think kids are the same way. I think having that structure, it's tough, but like limiting social media, having those parameters, even though they fight, because there's many actors who are like, I want to be free. I want to do whatever I want. No, they don't. They want to be free, but they want to be free within whatever the parameters of the project are. And kids are the same way. I think kids are like, they say they want the freedom, but they love the structure. They love those parameters of knowing where their boundaries are. And then they have the freedom to play because they feel safe.
That's a great answer. And also it's very child development appropriate. You're right on.
Oh, good. Yes. Yes. A+.
That's it. You passed that one with flying colors. Okay, guys, anything else that we want to ask Tony before we let him go?
I don't have any questions, Tony, but I wanted to share with you that the number of times I heard you bring in, give yourself a break, give yourself some grace, let this unfold, really resonates, because I think there is so much pressure now that people are just feeling overwhelmed, and add to it a pandemic, add to it all of the other issues that are going on, and people are just maxed out. So I really appreciated that.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. I also think, and we all know it, but Instagram, Facebook, to all those things, it's everybody's best foot forward, everybody's highlight reel. It's not truth. You know, however, I still compare myself to somebody else's highlight reel, to somebody else's best foot forward. It's not reality. It's just not reality. And so that's where, and I'm guilty of as well. I think that's just where we really have to monitor what we're believing.
Yep.
That's really good. Awesome. Anything else, folks?
I wish I could be there with you guys during the festival. I miss Tallahassee.
Not the pollen. The pollen is out, Tony. It is
really
rough.
Yeah.
I don't miss that. I don't miss that. I don't. This quirky asthmatic does not miss that.
No.
Yeah, exactly. It's tough.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Well, so nice meeting you.
Thank you so much.